And today is simply called drawing pictures to show fractions. And why do we draw pictures? Mostly because seeing things in picture form is just a lot easier for us to understand than just looking at numbers and things, and that's why generally, you people like to be entertained with books and such, or movies rather than books. Somewhere along the line, somebody's not in the right spot there. Let's go with this. Corinne, will you switch with Noah, please? Or Kayleen, will you switch with Noah? Brooke, wasn't that the way it was supposed to be?
I think so, because they were on the top.
Yeah, see, that's why we try to do that. Sage. Sage is going to give you the lesson about drawing pictures for fractions.
Draw pictures because it helps.
See, look at Sage knows all about it.
What am I supposed to
Here is, for example, we're going to draw three squares. Draw 3 squares and shade 1/2 of each a different way. Which simply just means this. The toughest thing to do is get 3 squares that kind of look alike. But we'll do our best here. Here's 1, 2. The squares tend to get bigger as we go on down the line. So the book is just getting you kind of to see that there's more than one way to shade a square. Half of a square, let me do one for you. If I was shading this square and doing half of it, I could shade this bottom half like this. Or, if I were shading half of it, I could also cut it in half like this and shade half of it, correct? Or, what would be a third way I could do it? Great. Yep, cut it in half diagonally. And you would shade half of it. Okay, so there's more than one way to show that. Or, we could do the same thing with a rectangle.
Mr. Ron, couldn't you do it on top too?
Yeah, but you're still splitting in half the same way. You could do the shading on the flip sides, but they're asking you different ways to cut shapes in half. Same thing with if I was shading something into thirds. Okay, what if I had a rectangle? How many different ways could I shade this into thirds? Let's just think about that for a minute. What's one way I could cut this into thirds? Let's just cut it into thirds. Well, one way I could cut it into thirds would be to what, Madison? Which way? Up and down, sideways, crossways? Up and down, okay. I could cut this into thirds like this. How else could I cut it, Caleb?
Horizontally.
Horizontally. Love it. Shaped in thirds. Anybody got another way? Brooke, Kala.
You can't do it.
No, you could. Huh? Well, that's what I'm asking here. Logan?
Hopefully.
Well, now here's the thing, and I don't know if this is where Logan's going with this. If I have my rectangle, are you saying doing it like this?
No.
Well, the problem is if you did it like that, these are not going to be equal. And I'm sure there's a point at which you will, but we want to split it into equal parts. What about this? Or you doubters out there, if you think a little outside the box, remember, I'm just trying to shade a third of it. What if I did this? If I wanted to shade a third of that box, what would I do? Alex?
You shade the top half, or just the whole top half, and then leave the rest of the bottom white.
That's the same as this one. What would be a different way to shade a third of it? This is thinking way outside the box. Sammy?
Say the top left, then the middle bottom, and then top right.
Well, now, let me tell you, if I did this middle bottom and top right, that's not shading a third of it, that's actually shading half. Because didn't I, out of the 6 squares, didn't I shade 3 of them? That's half of them.
Oh, then you only do 6.
Okay, right. I could shade any 2 of those, and it would be a third of it, because it'd be a lot like this, just moving it over to pieces. And you could do it 1,000 bazillion different ways, really, if you're thinking outside the box, because if I split it into 12 pieces, what if I had that rectangle and split it into 12 pieces? How can I get 12? I can go 3 this way, and 4 this way. By the way, you should be able to see, how many pieces would I have to shade a third of it? Take a look at this one, because these two are really kind of split the same way. How many would I have to shade here to split a third, to get a third of it? Ryan?
4.
Right. And it wouldn't have to be these 4, but if I shaded these 4, it would look just like that. But I just need to shade 4, so I could shade this one, this one, this one, and that one. And that would still be a third of it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can shade some things here. Let's look at another question they asked. This is not really too tough. How about this one? Well, maybe not. Maybe that's it. Let's look at this one. They're just going to tell you things like this. We'll just do one more. Draw a rectangle and shade 2/3 of it. So if I'm drawing a rectangle and shading 2/3 of it, what's my first step? Look at the first 2 words. Caleb? Draw a rectangle. That's my first step. What's my second step? Ma'am? Yep, always look at that bottom number because that's the most important number. Okay, and it's your choice which way to split it into thirds, and it doesn't matter which one you do. I'll just go like this for fun. Okay, I've now split it into thirds, 1, 2, 3 pieces, equal pieces, as much as I have copies yet. And then, what does the top number tell me? Top number tells me, Caleb,
How many are shaded?
how many to shade. And again, you can choose which 2 you want to shade. Usually we shade them next to each other, but you certainly could shade it like that and say there's 2/3. Now let me give you some helpful hints of advice here.